Hey, good morning. Today's actually Palm Sunday, so I hope you guys get a chance to enjoy the service online. And I hope you have a very blessed Holy Week. We're back in our book, The Ministry of Ordinary Places. This is chapter 8. Grab your coffee. Let's have a good time together, shall we? This one's called Tacos and Tea. About a year ago, a notable shift took place in our church congregation. Week by week, people from the neighborhood work release center and incarceration facility, where inmates are only allowed to leave for work and church, began filtering over, to our great delight. A few became a handful, and before long they filled several rows. The men and women eventually filled in the side wings, and some of them began serving communion and passing the offering plate. Because we're no strangers to the specific joys of friendship with those at the margins of the society, this thrilled Corey and me. It also quickly changed the shape of our Sunday afternoons. Until that time, we considered Sunday a day of rest and a day set aside for family time. Now we were faced with the reality that a growing number of the people in our lives were left with a short window of freedom each Sunday afternoon, but often no family to spend it with, no home to relax in, and usually no car to get them where they wanted or needed to go. The solution was simple. The execution was, too, though it would have cost us some things like downtown and our Sunday afternoon naps. With our home just 2 blocks from the church and only a few more blocks from the work release, we put out an open invitation most Sundays. Come. The crowd varies a bit from week to week. There are a few regulars who I put to work making coffee and chopping the occasional head of lettuce. They know where the sugar is and feel comfortable plopping down on the couch once their bellies are full. Some of them bring laundry, and they slip away to switch the load right around the time we're digging into dessert. Some visit loved ones stuck in jail via video chat, flipping their phones around so that the rest of us can wave, say hi, and dream about the day they'll join us for hot soup or a hot and ready pizza. Other guests cycle in and out. On a blazing July afternoon, Jake was the new face at our table. He sat to my left out on the back patio, his jeans 2 sizes too big, his glasses as thick as a double-paned window. Twice during the meal, he stared down at his fidgeting hands, mumbling a quiet thank you for the meal. Glancing at the greasy paper plates with sloppy joes and chips straight from the bag, I hoped he understood that it really was no trouble. We sat for an hour under the shade of one of the small patio umbrella, 6 adults laughing and bumping elbows while the kids, some by age, others by virtue, raced around, trying to fabricate a zip line from trash found in our garage. As usual, our conversation was all over the place. With the exception of our newest friend, the rest of us realized years ago that our bonds are real and built to last. Together at the table, nothing is off limits and everyone listens. With time and open-hearted patience, our Sunday crew is revealing a picture of what it truly looks like to come together regularly for the sake of the family. Right now, there's a lot of talk about what it might take to fix the problems plaguing our world. Legislation might help. Our education system needs to be taken to school, and the church has its work cut out for it, the heaviest lifting waiting within its walls. Families are fractured. Alienation abounds and fear runs wild. Global conflict? Check. Rampant polarization? Check. Religious demonizing? Dinners with extended family where not even homemade mashed potatoes keep you from wanting to dash out the door? Yes. All are present and accounted for, looming overhead and casting long shadows. But every Sunday I'm inclined to believe that making the world a better, brighter place might really be as simple as making lunchtime brighter for one person. Most of us understand the importance of sitting around the table as often as possible with our families. While it's not only easy in practice, it's worth the time and effort. We know it's not about the food. My kids feel like the luckiest humans on planet Earth when we call cereal night and they can each pour their own bowls. We know it's not about the decor. If I called my family a table with an elaborate tablescape, they would all be baffled. We sure as heck know it's not about the condition of ourselves or our home. Once, when my kids were younger, I emerged from my shower wearing jeans rather than yoga pants, and Ruby started crying because she thought I was leaving for the night. That's all you need to know about how I, a work-from-home mom with an aversion to getting ready, am seen in the eyes of the children. They take comfort in my no-fuss appearance and are as suspicious as cold case detectives when the house is overly tidy. It begs the question, why do we flip these truths around when it comes to welcoming someone else into our space? Why do we freak out? Why? Oh, why? Do we keep forgetting that family is so much broader than the people who share our name and that we're all just looking for genuine home? Somewhere along the line, we have inferred that opening our home to someone is a special sort of gesture, and that the amount of work we put into that gesture indicates our degree of honor. We begin to believe our ordinary, or the way we actually live in the day-to-day, is not company worthy. We dig out the war paint because we want our friends to feel honored and special. With gleaming intentions, we veer into impressing. As it is said, we can compete or we can connect, but we can't do both. The trickiest things about writing about hospitality is that it requires using the word hospitality. I cringe. Heaven only knows why our desire to spend meaningful time with others is saddled with such churchy, pearls and aprons sounding word, conjuring up vivid Sunday school images of Mary and Martha. Even though I know Jesus preferred Mary's M.O., I always feel like Martha was secretly the real winner of the contest. In fact, the fact that I still see it as a competition only further illustrates my need for this lesson in the first place. Hospitality. It sounds kind of fancy, but its meaning is simple, bare bones, pure, and entirely holy. You are invited. There is room here for you next to me. I receive you with gladness and offer my truest trust. Here we draw nearer to each other, seeking refuge from the crush of life. Here we're safe, we're warm, we're free. Knowing that, why does something so vital to our souls often feel scary and uncertain? What is it about the come-as-you-are spirit of hospitality that makes us doubt our ability to do just that? We can blame social media with its impulse to stage perfection and crop around the mess. We can point a finger at the individualistic bent of our modern age. I'm sure we all have a story or two to share about a time we put ourselves on the line in the name of welcome and walked away lonelier than ever. Rejection is a chronic injury, difficult to shake once felt. We are so afraid our vulnerability won't be held with gentle hands. The truth is, we still want more. Our ready skepticism wobbles on this one. Past disasters, potential future failures aside, we know it's worth it. We want to do better. We want to crack this nut, this inborn optimism. Oh, being optimistic. Thank you. To keep trying is all the proof we need. Hospitality, the urge together, is hardwired into our spiritual and relational DNA. It might look a little different from person to person, but in this one way, we recognized our shared lineage of potlucks and patios, long nights where the wick burns down to an ember, and the kids incite some small catastrophe. Despite all the mess and unpredictability, I'm positive it's worth taking some risks and making some mistakes to cultivate a constant rhythm of welcome and belonging in our homes. Speaking of mistakes, whoa, Nelly. Not only have I made my fair share, I keep making them while expecting a different result. For me, trouble comes knocking when I find myself over planning, plotting, and scheming. It's usually when I start drifting, make ahead deadlines, and daydreaming about multiple courses and centerpieces that I careen straight into the pit of ruin. Hear this clearly. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. My friend Sarah constantly invites me into her home where garlic infuses the air, and I can expect a table covered in vintage china, fresh flowers, and a dessert whipped up using whole vanilla bean. On those lucky nights, I feel kept, known, and loved. I'm free to arrive as the worst physical version of myself. Think sports bar, ratty sweats, and unfortunate hair situation. Yet I'm treated as a queen. Sarah's brand of hospitality plucks the very strings of my heart. I always count it a gift. Though I still have some of that in me, most times I fall more on the side of, nope. Blame my kids, my house, my age, I don't know. Blame my life, which gets more peculiar by the year. For whatever reason, I don't pull off a fancy pants dinner quite like I used to. If only I could remember this about myself. And now to illustrate this truth, a play in 3 acts, the whole of which took place within the past year. Act 1. A guy named Seth came to town to visit the jail where Carrie and I stayed in our home. We had many mutual friends and had interacted online for several years. I felt like I knew him, but I didn't actually. This made him a prime target for my dormant hostessing mania. There was no question that I would cook something special while he was with us. Here's where the trouble began, because though I could have made any number of familiar, perfectly delicious dishes, I tricked my mind into thinking special needed to mean interesting, which meant, apparently, it needed to be something I was not super adept at making. I settled on Jen Hatmaker's Pad Thai. I'd made it once before, and we'd slurped it up, denouncing takeout for life. I'm still unclear about what went wrong the second time, but I'm comfortable shifting the blame to Jen, because what fun is it a good cooking disaster without a long-distance scapegoat? Yada, yada. The house reeked of fish sauce. The noodles were somehow both burnt and soggy, and later that evening our dearest house guest, whom I now consider a dear friend, probably thanks in part to our shared trauma, confessed his digestive system had staged an emergency coup. All of this when I could have just made soup. Act 2. 2 months later, my sister and nephew were visiting. Spoiler alert, I hadn't learned my lesson. Let me offer the disclaimer that I don't often get to indulge palates as adventurous as my own. My family has learned to roll with the punches of my culinary tomfoolery, but beyond them, I try to rein it in when I'm feeding anyone whose underwear I haven't laundered. Seems like a fair litmus test. As you can imagine, as the older sister by 5 years and the washer of many loads of laundry throughout our growing up years, Keisha fell tidily into my zone of reckless abandon. I decided to make po. Now this is where you are keenly identifying that I could not. International noodles plus Shauna Martin plus company equal imminent doom. I chopped and diced well beyond the bounds of good common sense. Rachel Ray would have barfed disapproval at the amount of prep time required. I made a special trip across town to the Asian market for fresh bean sprouts. I stocked up on sambal olek. I have no idea. For all for naught. It didn't matter that I'd made the soup a few times before to rave reviews and requests for thirds. When I came to the even slightly inflated pressure of cooking for my own sister, I choked. On noodles, the consistency of rice pudding. Even the unsuspecting, adventurous eating 2-year-old pushed it away. Act 3. Mere weeks after our faux misfortune, Corey and I were invited to a home of a new couple in the neighborhood. We chatted for a while in their living room, then moved to the kitchen where Grant made some kind of magical pour-over coffee and set a kettle of water to boil for his wife and me. "We don't need to complicate it," he said when he invited us. "If we get hungry, we'll figure something out. I just want to get to know you. That's the point, and it's really pretty simple." Hours into our time together, he popped a pan of popcorn and sprinkled it with salt. I walked home that night with a clearer understanding of what hospitality could look like. If we're willing to surrender our pride. Hosting friends in our homes can look bountiful, and some of us truly delight in planning every detail down to the fancifully shaped ice spheres. But it doesn't have to. When we say there's room here for you, the food, the decor, the condition of our floors are small potatoes. When we say, "Come, sit next to me," it's our souls that are most hungry. Maybe the extra bag of chips in the pantry is all we need to fuel a conversation and seal our hearts. Maybe our definition of bountiful is itching to be stretched. I poked around on social media recently, asking questions and taking notes. I wanted to know how we really feel about hospitality and what holds us back from stepping into it more often with more confidence. Here's a sampling of what I've learned, though in most cases it was stuff I already personally felt. For the most part, I wasn't learning as much as I was nodding along. 1, most of us are introverts. Hi, me too. And we've allowed ourselves to believe this lets us off the hook of inviting others into our homes. We all hate small talk. We think our homes aren't big enough. Oh, come in.
My sunglasses in here.